This place wants us dead.
What could have done that?
There must be a bear.
A bear did that.
I found only one set of prints. Large, 20 inches across.
I do not believe it is an animal we battle.
Not a man, not a bear. And what?
It's the ice, Georgie.
Welcome to Ice Cold. The Double B Podcast Network looks at AMC's The Terror. My name's Bubba. You can find me on Twitter at FittenTrim. That's FITTENTRIM at FittenTrim on Twitter. With me as always.
Always?
With me as always. Somebody who, after this episode, has a lot to chew on.
Yes, true.
It's Mork. Mork, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Bubba. How the heck are you?
Oh boy, after that episode, we'll have to talk about it. How can people find you on social media?
Oh, well, there's a place called Twitter, twitter.com, and they can register and do all that stuff. And then they can follow me at Extraordinary. That's extraordinary with the W in front of the final R.
Today, we are going deep on Season 1, Episode 10, We Are Gone.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, man. The season finale. This is an anthology series, so if we see Season 2 of The Terror, it will have nothing to do with this story, these characters. So we're going to talk about the episode a bit. We're going to, after we review the episode, we're going to give our thoughts on the season as a whole. Plus, we're also going to get to some great Double L.
Double L?
That's what we call our loyal listeners.
Yes.
Some of their feedback on Tuunbaq's final moment.
Yeah.
And just to give you an idea, we have so much feedback that, listeners, I apologize if I've missed somebody's because there's just been so much. But we're going to have feedback from Matt Foster, feedback from Matt Foster, Colin, Linda Tarver, Shakespeare of Thrones, Lawrence Jameson.
Yeah, Lawrence.
Zest, Susan Forrester, Dawn Ivy Hare, Carson Young, first name, last name, Mike R., Bo Shaver, Jennifer J. Allen, Peter Connolly, JT Terry 81, Maestro 4202, Morgan, and finally Topher. Once again, if I've missed yours, we're going to get to all of that feedback at the end.
We'll get there.
Thank you guys so much for giving us that great feedback.
We need it.
Mork, let's get to it right here at the start. What is your ranking for Season 1, Episode 10, We Are Gone?
I'm going to give it 9 double H's.
Double H's?
Hoaxy halves. It started off a little slow. It was slow throughout, but...
Well, there was one moment that...
Yeah, that is true. In the beginning part of the episode, I just sort of felt like, we're spending a bunch of time with people who I don't know who these people are. And so that would be the only thing I didn't really love about it. There are some things that I still quibble with in terms of, like what some of the characters were doing, and we'll get there. But... I'm not going to say it's a fun way to go out, but...
if you did, we'd bring in some therapy.
Yeah.
I mean, dear Lord.
Yeah, this was, it was rough, but it worked, and it's going to linger, and you're going to think about it, we're going to think about it, we're going to talk about it, hopefully argue about it. So yeah, I'm giving it 9. What about you, Bubba?
Mork, I know I shouldn't do this.
No, you shouldn't.
I shouldn't do this because I had quibbles, too. The end music, I really wasn't too fond of.
Yeah.
And there were little elements that it's not just that I didn't enjoy, I had problems with some of it.
Yeah.
This isn't note for note how the book ends. Let me say that. So if you haven't read the novel by Dan Simmons, listeners, know that you can get the audiobook, you can read the book, and there's still going to be a lot of incidents, a lot of surprises for you in the book.
Are we still doing that contest where you will read the entire book to... Double L?
Double L? Oh, loyal listener.
Yeah, if they win.
No, it's if they lose.
If they lose. Okay. Either one.
But I know I shouldn't do it. I have these quibbles. I'm going 10 double S's out of 10.
Double S's?
So long, Silna.
Oh,
that hurt me to see Silna walk off by herself.
We didn't see her walk off.
I got a peek of her walking out that night. Well, I don't know what direction she went, or I would have told Captain Crozier.
You should have told Mr. Crozier. Thank you. At this point,
I'm going 10 out of 10. This is going to linger. You said it exactly right. This is not one of those endings that you'll just kind of walk away from unscathed and think, "What a fun ride!" or "Ooh, that was really good." this is one where even if you didn't get to learn all of their names, which it's very difficult to learn all these characters' names, the suffering, the pain, the evilness of Hickey, as well as the heroism of some of these characters who you've grown to care about so much, seeing them go out and what's befallen them, 10 out of 10, just because it's going to affect me that much. And we'll get to my quibbles later if anybody's like...
Well, I got a quibble.
Let's hear it.
The worst thing that Mr. Hickey did was talk about what the mission of the Terror was going to be, and then some psychopath killed him. But Mr. Hickey really didn't do anything that bad compared to... Mr.
Hickey in the canal.
Compared to everyone
we never knew
else.
Yet. But Mr. Hoaxie, what a great discovery of a complete jerk. If you are making the next TV show movie and you need a Weasley SOB actor, Adam Nagaitis, great job. Bravo. Sure. I cut off my tongue for you, just like you cut off your tongue for Tuunbaq.
Oh, man.
We're going to get to really this episode, this whole season, the whole story. Listeners, this whole time, I've been saying it all season long about how you can help us. You've been kind enough to listen to our podcast. So you may be wondering now that the terror's over, how can you help us? How can you stay with us here in the Double P podcast family? Number one is however you listen to this podcast. Maybe it's on Apple Podcasts /iTunes. Maybe it's on Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube. However you listen to this, please go ahead and subscribe. That way, it'll pop up in your app no matter what's next for us. So please do that. Second thing, I've been saying it all, dear Lord, season long, go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/double P podcast. That's the word double, the single letter P, the word podcasts with an S on it, facebook.com/double P podcast. Follow the page, like the page. No matter what we do, even if it's not on this podcast feed, you'll get an update about it. Then the final thing I want to say is that I looked up today. I was like, how do people even find podcasts? I know how I find podcasts. I might guess how you find podcasts. But what everybody...
Ouija boards.
In some ways, it's easier than some of these search engines. Everybody said it's generally word of mouth. Their friend says it. Somebody's interested in something. So the final thing we could ask you listeners, if you could do, after you've done all these other things, if you could spread the word and say, hey, here are these fun guys who reviewed a great TV show, The Terror. Anything you can do.
And Bubba and Mork.
Right. The fine guys and the two hosts who are completely different goofballs. Also, if somehow you're new to the Double P Podcast Network's coverage of The Terror, you may have already picked this up. We get very lighthearted and silly at times, trying to liven up what is a great show, but at times can be a downbeat, somber show.
What do you mean? I got a good feeling about this episode. I think it's all going to work out this week.
Man, I see this episode, I just think of Maui, Oahu, all those great places Hoaxie thought he was going.
Yeah, that's exactly the same thing I was
All right, so even before we get to this episode, Mork, before we started recording the podcast, I threw out something which I've been thinking about as much as I can, and that is our good buddy. We said we were Double T.
Double T.
Team Tuunbaq.
Tuunbaq.
As an overview, Tuunbaq got introduced to us way back when Graham Gore accidentally shot the shaman. I shot the shaman.
Oh.
Now, the shaman died. I mean, this is a true tragedy. Gore, in some ways, had to pay for his mistake. He paid for it the worst way by getting gutted and probably his soul sucked out by Tuunbaq.
Right.
After that, Tuunbaq went absolutely crazy on the crew, followed them back to the boats, attacked them. Then after Tuunbaq tried to get Mr. Blanky, got shot by that rocket, that cannon, and bled and disappeared. We didn't see Tuunbaq again till when? Till after Hoaxie, a.k.a. Mr. Hickey's alias, Hoaxie, pulled that scam, killed some men, and then he lied about it, so other members of the crew ended up killing that Inuit family.
Right.
Then Tuunbaq came back hardcore.
Yeah.
And so I was asking, we've been talking about it, listeners, let us know what you think on our Facebook page, facebook.com/double P podcast. What do you think Tuunbaq's real role is? What do you think his, as silly as it sounds, his motivation is? If Gore hadn't killed the shaman, would Tuunbaq have killed anybody?
I'd say probably not. I wouldn't really think of Tuunbaq, and I don't know if Tuunbaq is a Mr. Tuunbaq or a
Dr.
Ms.
Tuunbaq.
Or a Dr. Tuunbaq. Well, with online schools these days.
Listen, everybody was becoming a doctor. Goodsir became a doctor.
He worked his way up. So no, in Jaws, what was Jaws' the shark's motivation in Jaws? I don't know if he really needed to have one. Obviously, he affected everything.
Oh, yeah.
Or it affected everything. And he did react to some of the things, whether that the crew did, ill-intentioned or not, or accidentally. So I think it was really just part of that environment. It was part of that world. It was part of the unknown come to life.
Okay, I was thinking about it. They talked about harmony. And one year we had too many bear on the island. And one time in this area we had too many caribou.
Right.
And so I was wondering if, with the shaman, Tuunbaq's role was to, even it out. Okay,
right.
There's too much caribou. Tuunbaq would eat enough caribou to find balance on the island. If there
Sure.
are too many bears, Tuunbaq goes a bit cannibalistic himself, eats
Right.
a bunch of bears.
Yeah,
In some ways, did Tuunbaq accomplish his goal even without a shaman? Because if there were, quote unquote, if you believe that one guy who's I'm not a huge fan of, that Inuit leader who's like, these white men have scared away all the animal, there's nothing here with legs anymore. Tuunbaq, even without a shaman, accomplished his goal. He created balance again.
Right.
No, there weren't too many men at the end on this island anymore by the time Tuunbaq finished up.
Yeah, they were gone, except for one guy. That makes sense. I think that tracks, but I think it's also the kind of thing where Tuunbaq is he's a spiritual being, and he doesn't really have a logical motivation. I mean, he's there. He exists on a spiritual realm. He's sucking people's souls out, and maybe we'll never know. What I don't know, and maybe we could hold on to this till later. You tell me. But will there be another Tuunbaq? Is there another Tuunbaq? Does Tuunbaq have a family?
Did Lady Silence leave to be like, I gotta find a new Tuunbaq?
Right, or what happens if Tuunbaq has like a really angry older brother, like the Hound in the Mountain
on Game of Thrones?
Game of Thrones. Like, what if there's a meaner Tuunbaq that's going to come now?
Then season 2 is going to be really brutal. Season 1 was brutal enough.
Season 2 predictions: there will be one episode, and it will be bloody.
The Empire Tuunbaqs.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I don't know. And we can dig into that later. There's been a vote, Bubba. You're completely in charge. We're not going to listen to you.
Wait, no?
Oh, no. But trust me, you're still in charge. You're definitely in charge.
Oh, boy.
But remember when you told me not to drink any of your good booze?
Oh, boy, yeah.
I knew what you meant was, please go ahead and drink all my good booze.
I really think you had a vote while I was sleeping that said, should we drink his good booze or not?
Maybe, but there was a coded message.
There certainly was. Let's go ahead and get to that part of the episode, Mork, because it is right here at the beginning, after we see, admittedly, a bit of Crozier with Hickey. Let's just get back to what we call Terror Camp.
All right.
Edward Little, a guy who's made a bunch of mistakes throughout the season.
Oh, yeah?
Even
Name one.
Name one. When the guys were getting guns, and he's like, okay, you're not supposed to get guns, but wait,
go ahead,
everybody wants guns. Yeah, okay. I want a list of who got a gun. But even though through all this, I was relatively positive on Little, especially when he comes in and he's like, okay, guys, let's gather up some guns. We got to go get the captain. And he was listing brilliant reasons. He's like, none of us have been in this area before. None of us speak the Nesalic language.
Right.
He was making an awful lot of sense. And I can only imagine that these guys who've been feasting on the infamous tins of mystery all this time have just gone nuts because they were like, yeah, we took a vote and we're going to follow some of the captain's orders before he got kidnapped. And not all of them.
Yeah.
This was heartbreaking for me to see them.
That was tough.
To see them do that, even if in some ways I understand so much of what these men who were saying, yeah, you know what, the ill, we're going to leave them behind. And maybe at a certain point you needed to. Of course, we later see some of the remnants of the camps. They were bringing books.
Yeah.
They were bringing, the traders had fine china. I mean, stop dragging them. Drag the sick and, oh.
Well, it was interesting because it definitely did prove Crozier, man, this guy really knows what he's talking about. Last week, some of the guys were like, hey, this guy, he's not going anywhere. We're dragging him around, but he's a goner. Let's just leave him. And Crozier's like, no, we're going to hang out with him. We're not going to leave him all alone to fend for himself. And I'm not going to do that to you either. And we're all going as a group. And these guys, it's almost like Crozier's care for them allowed them to sort of ignore him a little bit because they weren't afraid of him. And they thought, well, Crozier will understand. And they kind of defied him. And it did not turn out well. I mean, Crozier man, he's got a future in the Navy, I think.
I think he's got a future on the ice
or
with
on
his
the
son.
ice.
Spoiler alert for the end. So yeah, these other men. I thought there was another lieutenant there with Little. This was just so crazy.
Yeah.
This was so crazy.
Well, this for me was...
Oh, so frustrating.
Well,
so frustrating. Go rescue the captain. It made perfect sense if these guys had any wits about them anymore.
Yeah, but you totally understand why they don't have any wits about them anymore. And, and ultimately, I don't blame any of these guys. So many of these people are acting out of hunger and fear and desperation and
lead poisoning,
having lost a limb or two to Tuunbaq. All these guys, I don't really blame them, but watching them have this discussion was a little heartbreaking.
Yeah, it definitely was. And Little's like, yeah, you want me to come? What do you want me to do? You just want me to come to haul.
Yeah, exactly.
But I did like the guy who says, we want you to haul, but also to survive. Even if they're like, Little, okay, we know in normal circumstances, you would be the one in charge. You're the highest ranking. The captain left you in charge. We should follow you. But even though we're ignoring everything you say, and we're not going to do anything you say, this has become a democracy. Welcome to the United States.
Yes, but we're not going to listen to you.
Right. But
you're still in charge.
But you can still come.
Yeah.
And so...
Well, that was nice.
Yeah, it was nice. We'll catch up with them much later on, but now this gives us the free reign to go on the Crozier's trip to the traders. His trader trip.
Trader Joe's.
Oh my God! And all of these guys are just the absolute worst.
Not all of them, but most of them.
Well, that's true. I'm going to have a flip on a character I've been going nuts on for a bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Is it Mr. Diggle?
Well, Mr. Diggle's, you're right, of the traders, and he and Goodsir seem to be at least two who are like, okay, we get it.
Well, Goodsir, I don't think you would call a trader. He kind of
at the trader camp, I mean. Yeah, and Dingle, if he went to the traders, him seeing the captain beat up like this, it's not just that Armitage went and got him.
Yeah.
It's that he had a couple of accidents on the way. Oh,
they
my
smacked
God.
him around.
Oh, this is terrible.
Good.
And so Dingle seeing that...
I think it's just Diggle.
Right, sorry.
Yeah. I mean, Dingle does sound a little funnier.
Is that you, Mr. Diggle? Dingle. Sorry.
For the last time.
And so, hey, guess what?
Ooh.
This series has taken so many tough turns. Mm-hmm. But as soon as Crozier arrives at Hickey's camp,
right,
and he sees Hickey standing there, we get an ice-cold moment.
Oh, yeah.
Hickey is trying to be like, hey, we're equals. You're a captain. I'm a captain. You're a leader. I'm a leader. And Hickey's like, do you remember we once shared a drink on a Wednesday? Do you remember? Crozier, I remember. You had a dog turd in your hand. Ice cold.
Yeah.
I loved it. I loved it mainly because, and I would only have caught this because of the previously on. It's not just that now Hickey, Hoaxy, is wearing a kind of like an officer's jacket, but he's also wearing JFG's boots.
Right.
Did they go dig up the body and get the boots? Because didn't they bury him in his boots? What are these a-holes doing? Oh, my God.
Yeah.
You can hate Hickey so easily on the show.
No, he's real smarmy. He's almost posing in messianic fashion a little bit when Crozier arrives. And for me, and this is one of my little quibbles here about this episode, and really the show in general, was in terms of Hoaxy's plan, Hoaxy's goal, Hoaxy's motivation, it went beyond just surviving, and he went mad, obviously, but it did call into question all the other people, and this is something that Catfish and I argued about a little bit, 2 episodes ago, were the people who were following Hoaxy really on Team Hoaxy or not? And I felt when Crozier showed up that Diggle, the way that Diggle responds, I mean, a lot of these guys they're glad to see him. They're afraid of Hoaxy, but they're glad to see him. And I don't want to say that they're hopeful, but...
No, I got that vibe too, yeah.
They're like, oh, things are looking up. Clearly, they haven't watched the rest of the show.
Crozier has been beaten, as we saw, by this guy Armitage. It's so funny. They've mentioned Armitage's name a million times throughout this 10-part series. And it's only now that I'm beginning to go, okay, that's Armitage. That's the guy who's Armitage.
Well, the other thing that's hard to track with these guys is from week to week, they're getting spots, they're growing beards, they're changing outfits. So it was a little tricky. I had trouble with that too, though.
But Hickey, Hoaxie, he's trying to play the gracious captain. He's like, oh, look, Crozier's injured. Have Mr. Goodsir tend to him.
No one else can beat him up.
Right.
No one else beats him up.
We're just going to bully him from now on. No physical damage.
Just mean tweets.
And so we get the goodbye scene between Crozier. If they're a couple, they're a team Crozier.
Yeah.
If you like Goodsir and Crozier. And Crozier, throughout the series, has had his ups and downs. He's had his terrible lows when he was drunk and on detox and all these things. Goodsir has been heroic, angelic, you almost want to call him the whole way through. Mm-hmm. Hearing him here in this discussion where it's obvious he's given up, it was heartbreaking. And maybe just as heartbreaking, listeners, you're not here when we're in the show and we're always talking. Goodsir, because he's giving up, he wants Crozier to give this ring back, but he can't remember Young's name.
Right.
And so I kept calling out at the TV, it's Young, Goodsir. The guy you're trying to remember who you want to get the ring back to his sister, it's Young.
Yeah.
It's Young.
Yeah, that was, I do feel that he gave up last week when he helped them devour, I can't remember who, but...
Oh, that was Gibson.
Yeah. And so, maybe Goodsir, if he was still fighting, he would have done last week what he did this week. But I'm glad he waited till this week.
Yeah, it was good that he could help Captain Crozier.
Absolutely.
And what if let's go crazy, what if you're Lieutenant Hodgson's, who he saw Crozier and it seemed like he came back more to the good sides when he was so weak last week. You keep mentioning
your good booze?
Diggle. Dingle. And so... Goodsir breaks my heart. Some of these guys you could have reformed, as crazy as this sounds.
Sure.
But he's just leaving. He's given up. And so that was heartbreaking. And I loved the captain trying to buck up, Private. Let's do this.
He was still trying. Yeah, he was still trying till the end. And he really forgave everyone. And he even says it where he forgives everyone except for Hoaxie.
That's a good point. No, that's a really good point. But everybody's going to eat this poisoned me. I forgive everybody. But you're still eating delicious poisoned meat. Way to go, Goodsir.
Well, Goodsir wasn't forgiving them. Crozier was. So...
Oh, sorry. Well, Crozier was also talking about escape. That was another heartbreaking thing when he keeps saying,
Little's going to be here any minute.
Everybody, Little will be here tonight, and then we're going to escape. This is so awesome.
Catfish he's going to be here this podcast. He's just running a little late. He's going to be here
good old Catfish. He'll be here any minute.
Any minute.
And so, oh boy, that was so heartbreaking. Did you know where this was going? Because this is something I don't like going to the book too much. This is something that plays slightly similar to the book. So did you know?
Well, when he said just eat this part, the roughest part, like all that, it was like, okay, well, I think something is up. I don't know poisons or the anatomy of a human being that well, but yeah, I think he tipped his hand effectively.
It tipped his heel.
How is this different in the book? Because I haven't read
Once again, I almost don't want to spoil the book because there might be people who really love this show. This book is long. Even with 10 episodes, they skipped a lot of incidents. I want to say that, was it the dead room on the ship they talked about where they had to bring the dead bodies down to one time?
We never saw any more.
Yeah, let me say there's more going on with that in the book that I thought was coming, and I was like, oh my God, this could be trouble. This could be trouble. So... just to say, this is somewhat similar to the book. That's all I'll say.
And I haven't read it, and I still have Catfish's copy, which I'll return to him.
But 800 pages to go.
Yes, I'm getting there. I am rounding third on it.
After Goodsir says, "Hey, if you're going to eat me, try my foot." Yeah. Here's another member of Traitor Camp, of Hoaxie Camp, who comes in to grab the captain and bring him to Hoaxie. And this guy, even he's like, Captain, I'm sorry, I have to get you. They all see him, and I don't know if it's because seeing him suddenly they're shamed or...
Mm-hmm. Well, I think they are, and I think also just the fact that he's there. I mean, yes, he was captured, but Hoaxie's whole speech was, Crozier doesn't believe in us, Crozier wanted to get the hell out of here, Crozier, he doesn't care, and Crozier... he could have run off somehow. He could have killed himself. He could have just gone off in the middle of the night. But he's still there. He's still in the same predicament as them. And I think that really hits home when they see him.
All right, so I forgot, as crazy as this episode is so good and has so many little incidents. Everybody slammed me. I forgot that they cut away to Jobson's death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How did you feel? Jobson is another one, a bit like Goodsir, who's been nothing but a great guy the whole way through. How did you feel, and what did you think his last vision on Earth of, here I'm at this table, I've got to get to the captain, I'm supposed to be maybe serving the captain, I don't know. What did you think of Jobson's final dream as he passes on?
Well, the main thing I was thinking about was really just about, I was surprised they didn't use a whole lot of hallucination throughout the series. I mean, This is really the first time that I really remember where it was such such a clear effect of these guys are losing their minds, and he's really imagining this, obviously. They did it again a little later on. Mm-hmm. That was definitely something I noticed.
They're leaving these guys to die, but they still left them some tents. Hey, here's 3 tins as we leave outside each tent. Oh, come on.
Just at least give them 4 tins. Can I have 4 tins, please?
This is going to sound terrible. If you're going to leave these men to die, why leave any tins? You're just making yourself feel slightly better that you're leaving somebody to die. As you still, once again, they still drag these books.
Maybe that's another way for them to protect themselves. They're like, look, we got to get these tins as far away from us as possible. Let's leave them here.
Oh man.
Well, that was rough.
Heartbreaking for poor Jobson. Another moment why this is going to linger.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Jobson. Let's move on to another confrontation between Crozier and Hickey. And Hickey, this guy drives me nuts. He's so evil. In his evilness, there's logic. He's not dumb. Let's be honest. Hickey is not dumb. When he's saying things like, wait a minute, this is a spirit that lives inside an animal, yet we shot it and I saw it bleed. Mm-hmm. That is logical enough to be like, wait, hold on. Yeah. Hold on. What's a frequency, Kenneth?
He's definitely shrewd. One thing that I thought was kind of interesting, and we don't alternate too much because at this point we've seen the last of the other camp. Mm-hmm. But the way that especially when Crozier shows up, that first shot of Hickey, the sky is blue in the background, and some of the way it's shot, it's actually pretty beautiful. Goodsir actually talks about, and I forgot to mention this. Goodsir talks about how
there's beauty in this place.
There's beauty in it, and he feels like a child. And it really was. Hickey's camp is a little prettier than the other camp. It was just something I
dare I say it, more orderly, because even in the other camp with Crozier, you could see so many men having their own thoughts, having their own things. Here, even though so many of the traitors know, Hickey's wrong, we should just kill him, as Hodgson said last week, he's running a tight ship. Call me crazy.
Well, he's running a tight ship, and, he's rewarding people with pieces of fresh meat.
And he also seems to be blaming Captain Crozier for being a weak man who screwed this all up.
Yeah, that...
It's like he doesn't really know the whole story. Maybe how could you, as a caulker, as a low man on the totem pole of these boats? But he was talking some smack.
He was talking a lot of smack, and I think for me, he's so self-grandiose. That for me went a little too far. He's saying this stuff, and you believe him when he's saying it, but he really has no basis. We have a lot of other people throughout the show, JFJ and Sir John, who, they've got to put Crozier in his place, from time to time. I just don't know why Hickey thinks that he's got the standing to pass any kind of judgment on him, other than what he's building himself up to be. And that's just...
Yeah, it's almost... Catfish joked last week when Hickey walked up that little hill. He's like, he's going to say his Sermon on the Mount. Mm-hmm. It is like he's turning himself into some... He's a powerful, strong one.
Well, and maybe he is pursuing that. Just a second ago you talked about how he realized, okay, this Tuunbaq is a spiritual being, but he's got a physical body. Obviously, we see what Hoaxie does down the road towards... It was slightly... There's something exciting happening later on in the episode. I won't spoil it, unlike the title of this episode. But
he's got a messiah complex. He's like, I have no equal on this ship.
Yeah, except for you.
I'm a genius. And then you ready? This is possibly...
I got stuck here for 2 extra years in the ice, but I'm a genius.
Hold on. This might possibly be our greatest ice cold of the season. You love this? He's going completely nuts. And Captain Crozier, what's he drop? He says... You must be a surpassively lonely man, Mr. Hickey. Oh, ice cold. Love it. Hell yeah.
He got him.
Snap. Drop the mic. boom shakalaka, eat it, Hickey.
I was surprised that Crozier did not drop something.
He should have thrown in some of your mama jokes. Like, do it, Hickey. Do it, Crozier. Put Hickey in his place.
There's nothing like the dozens in the Arctic Circle.
Oh, my goodness gracious. So we have this moment where Diggle says, hey, I'll free you in the night. And Captain still believes Little's coming from him. Oh, hard.
Well, hang on. I mean, we'll talk about it when Catfish
gets here. Just like Mr. Little.
Just in any minute. That was actually something that I thought was kind of nice. I mean, Diggle, he was trying to help as best he could.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point.
In terms of Crozier. And I think all these guys are. And then we go into Goodsir's cabin.
Yeah.
And
you were going, ooh, during this whole scene of Goodsir. What do you want to call it? He was basting himself?
I mean, he was, he cooked himself from within and from the outside.
Let me say, he swiped right all over his body. You know what I mean? That delicious poison. Oh, and then it wasn't just enough that he poisoned himself. Who knows how many ways? Right. He's got to break glass and slit his wrist, too. Holy smokes. He's committed, Goodsir. He doesn't do half measures.
No, he doesn't do half measures. And this is sort of interesting because Crozier, at this point, he's really only fighting Hoaxie.
Yeah.
But Goodsir is basically ready to kill everyone because he knows everyone is at that camp is going to chow down on him, and he's totally fine. He's basically, they can all eat me and die. And
is that what's on his tombstone? Eat me and die.
Yes. But the care he puts into. First, he tells Crozier, "Don't eat. If you got to eat, do something. Eat the soles of my feet, the toughest part." But then he puts his clothes back on, and he instead of dying from the poison, where maybe the rest of the crew would
figure it out,
off, he slits his wrist. So it's like, oh, this is how he went out.
What did you think of I can't think of a better example. The 2001 flashes of images of here's a seashell. What did you think of Goodsir's goodbye?
It was hard to say because I think some of it was definitely chemically induced. So, there's some kind of orchid, or I wasn't sure what that...
Yeah, I feel stupid that my botanist, my horticulturist, couldn't figure out what those flowers were. Like, were they ivy, or were they holly?
Lady slipper. Lady slipper?
What is that thing? What's that? A sponge?
Yeah, sure, yeah. Yeah.
Listeners, yes, if you unsubscribe because we're so bad at knowing these things, hey, go to our Facebook page. Find us online on Twitter.
If you can
tell us what those things were, what the symbolism was.
These three things, Bubba will read the entire book to you over the phone, if need be, or even by text.
He apparently did this in the afternoon, so his body would be perfect for supper, old Goodsir.
Right. They were taking a nap. They were taking a sick nap.
Right. Oh, great point. Great point.
Hoaxie tells us earlier.
And they used the fact that he didn't run off and die as a way to say he wants us to eat him.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah. Which is...
Goodsir was a good guy. He wants us to eat him. Come on, have a bite.
Goodsir, well done. And...
Oh boy!
We see
when they
something.
Tried it, they try. Well, you go on. Go.
Oh well, so this is. We were talking, or I was rambling on a minute ago, just about how this camp has a blue sky and it's actually kind of pretty. It is, and then we turn a corner behind a tent, and we see not just Goodsir dead, but Goodsir's been. This was worse than. I mean, we've seen flayed people on Game of Thrones. We've seen some rough stuff. This hurt.
You know what? I felt bad that the biography of Mr./Dr. Goodsir is now going to be titled, You Got Served.
Well, this is actually part of the...
There's a big unsubscribe moment there, too. We apologize, listeners.
Well, there's more coming.
Oh, man.
I for a little while, I was really into working out and watching my body and everything, and I will tell you, this is one part that they don't really talk about too much when it comes to the paleo diet.
Oh, my Lord.
So people just stay away from it. Oh, this is rough.
Hickey has to show he's in charge.
Right.
Crozier, you think you're above us and you're not going to eat. You are going to eat.
You are.
What an a-hole.
Yeah, and
oh, my gosh.
It looks like...
They made a plate for him, for God's sake.
They did make a plate for him, and it looks like it looks like at first, before we really see all the damage, it looks like it's just vittles, maybe like from organs and stuff. Mm-hmm. But then we see Goodsir's, what used to be Goodsir's glute, and
one of his biceps,
and it is.
Oh my God!
It is gone.
Do you want to tell the story of how we watched this scene? So we watched this scene of they're forcing Crozier to do it. Crozier realizes, okay, they're going to force me to do it. I better go cut the slice that Goodsir told me to get. I did what anybody with any sense did. I was looking away. You groaned so loud when Captain Crozier cut the soles off Goodsir's feet. Oh, my God. And I went, "Oh, what happened?" You go, "You got to watch." Oh, and so we had to rewind, and I had to watch it. Oh, my Lord. This was a disgusting scene. We love Goodsir. We love Crozier. We don't like seeing people get their, even if they're alive, get their foot cut like that. Oh, my God.
Even if they're alive. I would say it's probably worse to see that if someone was alive. But no, this was because it was Goodsir. Also,
oh my Lord,
you worked at Benihana for 3 years in college, so
oh my goodness gracious.
And Crozier, I actually thought that he'd fry it up a little bit. I mean, Diggle's there. Diggle's got the pots and the pans.
How do you think he explained his double F?
Double F?
Foot fetish.
Oh, man.
Sorry. Okay, we're just trying to make this painful part.
No,
my Lord! And look at how Hoaxy was looking at Crozier.
Hoaxy's
right
giving him touche. Point to you, Crozier.
Oh man! And poor Lieutenant Hodgkins, he still sits away from the men like he's a captain.
Right.
Oh, and so this day has been so rough. These people's lives have been so much. Mm-hmm. But it was good old Hoaxy himself who warned us this was going to be a momentous day.
Right.
And so he gets up from the table. And this shocked me. He's like, okay, he seems to be doing so much better physically than so many of these other men,
Yeah.
Even if he is have lost to his rocker and he's gone crazy too.
Well, his beard is a lot neater.
Yeah, he's trying to keep up appearances.
He's working double time.
But when he turns around and cold cocks Tozer on the back of the head and knocks him out.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell's going on? I even thought for a moment he was like, okay, let's kill Tozer. One less
I wasn't
person to worry about.
Do we see Tozer later? I can't.
Yes, and so this is where I was getting to.
All right, well, good. Lucky for Tozer.
Where I said some of these traitors, I suddenly was on their side.
Oh, for sure.
Like when Tozer finally woke up and he realizes, wait, I've been chained to the boat. I have to drag this up here. I'm hearing Hickey's insane plan. I was suddenly like, go Tozer.
Yeah, finally shove his head.
Go Hodgkins. All these guys who I've hated these last couple of weeks, I was suddenly like, yeah, go.
Well, we didn't have anyone else really other than Crozier to root for.
True. I mean, but he was suddenly getting a team together. He's like, yeah, we got to get unchained. Let's do this. Do this.
Do you think...
Oh, boy.
Do you think if they would have stayed out where they were much longer before, if they hadn't ended the meal so quickly that maybe they ran the risk of a health inspector coming along and raiding their restaurant?
Yeah.
What do you think? There'd be like a C?
I don't remember if Dingle, if Diggle was a chef or not. His first scene where I really noticed him was where he was joking about food on one of the boats. Yeah. And so I could just see Gordon Ramsay on Kitchen Nightmare. This tin of mystery is terrible. This is the worst.
Well, it would be...
You are pathetic. We had a brief scene back in jolly old England where Sir James Ross is like, okay, I'm going. Tell my uncle, Sir John Ross, later. I'm going to go find these guys. And
I was really nervous because the beginning of last week's episode starts with this nice scene at the library and
Join
Sir
the cause.
John's wife is raising money. And then cut to smashed face, on the ice. And it was the next day. So I was pretty nervous about what we were going to see here when they cut back. But thankfully, it was nothing bad.
Hoaxy Hickey. Mm-hmm. There's moments in this where he sounds sane. He's like, you know what? We're starving. It's going to get cold again. We should kill this bear, eat the bear, skin the bear. That made a lot of sense. And you're like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Now, these guys are all painfully sick. They're delusional. Right. The idea that any of them, even with all these shotguns, could kill the bear was crazy. But then he goes into Messiah complex, and it's not. Wait, no. We're not going home. I'm not Hickey. I threw him in the canal.
Yeah. This is the closest I'm getting to a wahoo. I'm going to enjoy this. He's standing up. He's in his underpants. He got rid of his coat. And
he's Captain Underpants, literally.
Yeah, he definitely is.
He's in his long johns, and I don't mean long Sir John Franklin johns.
No, because he only needed one leg.
He has his, as crazy as it sounds, he has his monologue. Hey, I was promised Hawaii. I was told 1 year in the Arctic.
Right. Yeah, this he's talking out here. This is sort of like it's a Bond villain speech, but
we're not going home. Why would you tell the men that? Are you crazy?
Yeah, but it might as well. Well, we see that he's just intending to sacrifice these guys, but
right, and he's going to sacrifice his own tongue like Lady Silence to Tuunbaq.
Right, but the way he kept yammering on, I was like, when I finally saw him cut out his tongue, I was like, man, I wish he would have done that about 10 minutes ago. So I wouldn't have to listen to...
Oh, man, I actually loved it. I love this little mini monologue. I thought it was great, mainly because when he tells them to fire a gun, why? These guys are mutineers.
Right.
They hear this craziness. All of them should have been mutiny. This is nuts.
Yeah,
Even when he says fire off a shot, the bear's around, dude. Are you crazy?
Like at this point, if you're Tozer or really anybody,
well, Tozer at this point is chained to the front of the boat, so he doesn't even have a gun anymore. Yeah, you're right. But some of these other guys like DeVoe, yeah.
What do you got to lose? What do you got to lose by just, you know what, Hickey, goodbye, kablam.
Yes.
I don't know what they have to lose at this point. But, yeah, so we get all of Hoaxie's hopes and dreams, and that's great. But this, for me, was, I just had kind of an issue with it because if he thought he could have really thrived by doing what he's doing, then... okay, I get it. But the combination of he is kind of losing his mind, and his goal is to, okay, he's a guy who doesn't really understand the Arctic. He's going to hang out there alone. I just don't get what he's trying to do.
Well, okay, listen to me.
I'm
if
listening.
You're never going to get to the island of Maui, the island of Oahu.
Then don't even bother.
No, make your own island of Oahu here on King William Land. This is an island. Let's do it, guys.
Look, so...
Bugger London. Bugger St. John's. Bugger Oahu. Bugger Maui.
Keep buggering.
Keep bugger everybody.
You know how in Maui they have something called the pig roast? Well, in Hoaxie's Island, they have a different kind of roast.
Oh, man. I gave this episode 10 out of 10. And here I'll get to one of my probably biggest pet peeves is they're like, uh-oh, it's coming. It's coming. Tuunbaq's here. It's here. Everybody get ready. And then this was a very painful cut to commercial, wasn't it? There were a couple in this episode where like, oh, you're cutting to commercial now? You can't do it. This is cooking. You can't cut right now. Oh, my gosh.
I don't really know where they would have. I mean, that was maybe just like a fade out or something like that. Because it was
a hard cut. It was a hard cut.
Yeah, and I thought you had actually sat on the remote or something and jumped us forward. Because I'm like, wait, why are we watching this right now?
Yes, and we come back, and it's time for a Tuunbaq attack. This attack, people hate me for being maybe sometimes tough on the slower sections. Get me to the carnival. The queue of Disneyland is great.
Right.
Get me on the ride.
Sure.
This is the ride. This was insanity. This was crazy. And this is, once again, where I totally flipped on Tozer. I was like, Tozer, get those chains off. Let's shoot it. Hodgson's, snap out of it. We're going to get the hell out of here.
Right, yeah.
And Crozier was acting like a captain. He was kind of commanding them. Guys, all right, behind the boat, let's do this.
Yeah,
loved it.
Right, even then, I mean, Crozier is doing the best he can to hang on to reality a little bit, you know, and take control. And I don't know if he thinks that he's going to win, but it just seems like he's going to order these guys to do stuff so they can do something and get their mind off the fact that their lunch, they're going to get eaten, and so try to do something. But they don't really respond. They can't really listen. DeVoe hits the ground running and takes off, and then...
Yeah, DeVoe leaves running, which is this. Even though they said, "Hey, they're going to eat," he's going to eat you if you run. DeVoe, I've hated him. He's kind of been an a-hole the whole time.
Yeah,
smart a-hole. Run for the hills.
Right.
We have this tense moment where good old Tommy Armitage. I keep mentioning they've been mentioning Armitage's name for so long. He finally snaps out of it. He's about to shoot Hoaxie when this guy who earlier I mentioned that seemed another guy, a good guy, on the Magnus Manson. He's gone nuts and is so Team Hickey, he shoots Armitage.
Right.
It's over. It's crazy. It is great, great action. I mean, I just want to do play-by-play on how great this is. So we see, okay, Hickey's about to get it. I don't know why this Magnus Manson shoots him. He's kind of gone nuts. He even says, sorry, Tommy, had to. Then everybody, there aren't enough guns, and Tuunbaq comes up, and Tuunbaq starts to eat. All these people, all these people try to start pulling the boat towards the guy who got shot because he has the keys. They're like, if we could get the keys, maybe we can get out of here. It is pandemonium. Poor Diggle / he runs. Was this something we should have known, that if you run, you get eaten first? That Tuunbaq likes you if you stand up to him, maybe? What do you thought this? This was a new fact to me.
Yeah, I think he just likes a challenge. You know? I think he just likes a challenge. And yeah, oh
man, he is. Hodgson's just got eaten. He became a bit too digital, cartoony.
Right. Then
this jerk who lied last week and said, oh, Captain, there's leads in the ice. He tries to hide under the boat. And I was like, Tuunbaq, take care of this SOB.
Yeah, get in there.
Loved it.
Now, do you think Magnus shot Tom as a favor?
Armitage, yeah.
Or I'm just sorry.
You won't have a soul to suck. Here you go. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
And then Magnus stands up to Tuunbaq. He's like, I'm not going to run. Well, and that didn't work too well.
Well, sometimes, look, kids, if you're listening, if there's a bully in your school, sometimes all you got to do is just stand up to the bully.
Oh boy, bad advice. And don't stand up to Tuunbaq.
Normally that's good advice. Not with Tuunbaq.
I want to know what was going through your head when Hickey starts cutting out his own tongue. What were you thinking? This was just so good, man.
It was rough. It was hard to watch. It was nasty. If we would have known, or if I would have known that, I don't know, somehow. I mean, how did Hoaxie know
about Lady Silence doing that?
Well, he didn't. No one saw.
No one saw her do it. What I think you would have to assume, they didn't show this, is Hoaxie was always good about getting information.
Mm-hmm.
They knew that Lady Silence's, and now I feel bad calling Silna Lady Silence, but they knew her father had his tongue get cut out. That was something that Goodsir said way back in that episode.
Okay.
Then later on, when she came back, she became part of the crew again. They would have seen her with her tongue cut out.
Yeah.
And so maybe his thought, maybe this isn't so much a rational thought as, wait a minute. Okay, these are two people who Tuunbaq didn't attack and kill when he theoretically could have. What was different about them? Oh, they didn't have their tongue. So I'm going to cut off my tongue.
Okay, so
maybe he's putting 2 + 2 and assuming it equals 4. In this case, it did not equal 4.
Well, but also, is it that, part of my thinking was that, oh no, he's going to now control Tuunbaq. And then
didn't work out too well, did it?
No, thank Tuunbaq, it didn't. Yeah, no, this was a very. If you think about what's happening here.
Yeah, well, did he give it up for Tozer? Once he was unchained, he got a gun and then went to go fight Tuunbaq.
Yeah.
Didn't end up too well for him.
Well,
because the chain that he
depends how you look at it, Bubba.
Yeah, it didn't work out too well for him. Not at all. Oh, my God. In fact, so Tuunbaq has eaten this guy, and he's pulling in the chain that Crozier is attached to. This is absolutely nutty.
Yeah.
Tuunbaq comes up and takes... Hickey's offering his tongue on his hand. Tuunbaq, aren't you... Hickey, ripped in half, baby. This is... listeners, we apologize. This is just play-by-play.
Yeah.
We're watching it again here on the big screen. So good.
Now,
but this was a Jaws-like moment, where somehow Tuunbaq is still digesting the chain and pulling Crozier closer and closer. So tense, in my opinion. So tense.
Oh, it was super tense. And why did Tuunbaq die?
Okay, well, this is something that from the book, well, I would say from the show, you could extrapolate.
Is he allergic to chains?
I think a lot of people are.
Okay.
But from the show, I think you could extrapolate. Tuunbaq did get hit before. He did get hurt before. He has bled. He got hit by a rocket, one of his last big attacks.
So he burst his stomach? Or
all these people are really, really sick, and he keeps eating these people who have this poison in them. I think that's stuff you can extrapolate from the show.
And
I would say the book has a slightly more supernatural, the spirit type thought of it.
All right.
But once again, I'm trying to. I apologize if listeners who've read the book are like, just come out and say say it. Let's discuss it.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's have those discussions in the comments and on the Facebook page, if that's okay.
Yeah, and they did actually say earlier when they're around the boat, they're like, whatever's in us, he's going to eat, or...
Yeah, you are what you eat.
Well, yeah, there was that, and there was another reference, too, and yeah, there's this great... When Crozier enlisted in the Royal Navy, do you think he's like, okay, bring some citrus so you don't get scurvy.
Of course.
Bring some books.
Right.
Bring at least 16 bottles of scotch.
Yep. Not
gin, but scotch. And basically that's going to cover all your emergencies. You're not going to have to worry about anything else, like, say, being pulled into the throat of a dead Tuunbaq.
Man.
That was insane.
Okay, so they cut to Lady Silence, and this person we assume is the shaman we were told about last week.
Yeah.
And I actually kind of like this moment. This guy who's going to show Lady Silence, sorry, I keep calling her Lady Silence, they're going to show Silna the ropes, for lack of a better word. They both kind of stop, and they're like, okay, this is no point. There's something in the air. Tuunbaq's not around anymore.
Right.
Bye, guys. I love that he left. I love that Lady Silence continued on. I love that she saw DeVoe. Mm-hmm. And there's a part of me who's like, okay, I can't remember DeVoe doing anything terrible to you, Lady Silence. Did. Yeah, whatever she did, she was like, yeah, later, loser. And so, yeah, DeVoe, you've actually been a guy who I've been against the whole way through because you've always kind of been an a-hole. And she leaves him there to die. You proud of her there?
Hell yeah.
I was very afraid when she approached Tuunbaq and seemed to be doing that ritual, that somehow she was going to bring him back from the dead.
Well, I'd be okay with that, just as... Well...
Are you crazy? Let him die.
No, I don't mind Tuunbaq. Tuunbaq, for the most part, you stumble into Tuunbaq's hood, and, you're on his corner, and you're going to get got. And he's pretty upfront about all that. So I was okay with that. But
I see this scene here, and I kept wanting Crozier to wake up and explain how a key works to Lady Silence. You don't have to cut off my hand. You don't have to do it.
I thought it was great. I mean,
she's pretty smart if she knows how to cut off a hand and then sew it back up and then heal his wounds when she's putting that stuff on him later. Loved it.
Well, she starts off by giving him a double S.
Double S?
A Silna slap.
Oh, yeah, that's a good way to get you ready for when you're about to lose I was about to say a digit, but like 5 digits, yeah.
Yeah, a couple of digits. And then we get to see some more double S.
Double S?
Silna squelching.
Oh, man.
So she's putting what? She's putting blubber or something?
Some sort of healing plant on him. We didn't talk about Silna seeing Goodsir served. Oh, man.
Yeah, happy Valentine's Day, huh?
Did you really think there was any sort of romance on Silna's part for Goodsir? You could tell she probably liked him. She probably liked Goodsir. He was probably the only one she did like.
Right. I think she felt that he was a good dude, and he had a good heart.
Well, they didn't eat that part of it.
Well, they ate him.
So Crozier, we don't know how long it is. I don't know how long it takes you to grow a beard. For me, this would be like several months later when he finally recovers enough to be able to walk.
And then it comes in pretty even, though.
Good work. Good work, Crozier.
I don't know if she was trimming it away, but we really saw. I didn't see. When in all the chaos, you didn't see those deep wounds.
Right, that Tuunbaq would have given him. We did see Tuunbaq kind of push him away one time, and so maybe that's where the wounds ended up. I thought
Tuunbaq gave him the hand.
Yeah, exactly right. And so Crozier's like, we've got to find my men to Lady Silence. And
also, my hand? Have you seen my hand? Can we find my hand?
First things first. I had a hand here.
Mm-hmm. Right. No,
did you know that they were doomed when he's like, we got to go find the other men? Did you know that
the other guys,
everybody else was? I did
not have high hopes, for sure, and that was also pretty frightening. I mean, and we were watching this, and you record this on with the East Coast feed,
right?
And so we skipped through the commercials. Not like we don't love.
Yeah, we love all AMC's commercials.
All the AMC commercials.
Give us some tchotchkes. Give us some goodies.
But, so we're skipping ahead. And after Tuunbaq goes down, after Hoaxie's ripped in half, after Crozier loses a hand, it's still, good. There's still another 30 minutes. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, oh, man, is it going to get worse? And
in some ways it did.
In some ways it did. God, seeing seeing Lieutenant Lou Albano.
Lieutenant Little, yeah. So this
was...
I want to jump in and talk about some of this stuff. So
rough.
So many times, listeners, you may have been upset that not only have we not talked about the book because we didn't want to spoil it, this podcast has really tried to avoid the true history of this. So what great author Dan Simmons did was he saw this real life scenario and he created this, this monster / survival / horror story around it. Mm-hmm. And so some of the things that happen in real life, he had to set up in his book and the show. There's always new facts coming out. So the show has to set up things. Well, okay, this is a new fact too. They had to set up, well, why did they bring all these books? Why did they bring on these China? Why? Because the rescue parties, which couldn't rescue anybody, but the people went out, found these things. They found, they found all these books.
And they didn't say anything about the cameras?
You know what? They didn't say. They found somebody like Little. You're talking about like what has happened to him. And you assume the other men maybe tortured him because they went mad and they
or
did this
to him.
himself.
Right.
From the way it sounds in real life, it sounded like somebody had done this to him. Somebody had done this to one of the men they found at this camp. And this is horrific. What happened to poor Little? So horrific.
Yeah, it's
and one of the other things they found in real life is they found some of the food. Some of the food they found was chocolates. And so they were like, well, why didn't they eat the chocolates? Didn't have lead in it. Why didn't they eat the chocolates for a bit?
Right.
Yet, they found these things. And that was one of the things a couple episodes ago, Captain Crozier was even talking about. Well, we got, how much do we have left? We have this.
Yeah.
And so the authors and the TV show runners are trying to have this fit the narrative. I mean, one of the things Dan Simmons...
the history.
Yeah, sorry, the history. Yeah. Trying to fit a narrative into this real-life mystery history. One of the things Dan Simmons said recently was that it definitely looked like they were heading out on this 800-mile walk, but it would have been more difficult conditions. But there was a place they could have walked just 130 miles away that was closer that they could have gone to.
Why did he say anything? Jeez, Dan Simmons, what the heck?
Well, he's trying to have it, once again, fight these real-life findings. The show, a couple episodes ago, when Captain Crozier left men on the boat to find the Northwest Passage. And he said, if it thaws, go this way. Mm-hmm. We believe that scene was put into the show. It wasn't in the books, but we believe that scene of, hey, if it thaws and you get any leads, go this way, the boats, is because since Dan Simmons wrote the book, they found the boats.
Yeah.
And the boats were kind of in where he was said, well, if it thaws, head right here. And so they found the boats at the bottom of the ocean. And so this really does fit into history as best they can in this entertainment.
Yeah, and for me, I have not... I've been waiting, number one, to read the book, and number two, to just do a huge Wikipedia dive onto all this.
Because, of the Franklin expedition, yeah, it's supposed to be fascinating.
Yeah, and so you haven't done a whole rabbit hole.
I've read the book all those years ago, 11 years ago, loved it, gave it a rave on Goodreads, at Fit and Trim on Goodreads, FITTENTRIM on Goodreads, and yet I didn't want to read any more history of it just because...
To give it away?
No, just because it felt like I'd gotten the story, and it felt like reading a Wikipedia entry wouldn't be as great. I should also say that one of the reasons why the showrunners created this Mr. Hoaxy character is because all these people are based on real people who lived.
Right.
And so they're like, we didn't really want Hickey.
So Hoaxy's not in the book.
In the book, it's just Hickey. Yeah, the fact that he has a different identity, they created that for the show.
Gotcha.
But that said, here I've been so tough on Tozer or DeVoe or even Hodgson, any of these traders, even John Franklin. Nobody really knows. And so is it a bit unfair to their real-life memory to paint them with some of the brushes that this fictional, let's be honest, it's a fictional story, tells?
Yeah. I don't know, but what about that? But what I do know is the idea... of the very little that I do know about, people know about the Donner Party,
right?
The Shackelford expedition.
Oh yeah,
so we know about this stuff, and I know that this was based on the Franklin expedition, and these were real ships. And we've talked about. Well, you guys bring it up a lot. The Star Spangled Banner, and these ships were
the Terror was part of that. Yeah.
The rockets in red air, or the rockets red glare.
yeah.
Anyway.
Okay.
But I'm pretty certain that there is no actual Tuunbaq. And, sorry.
That's exactly what the white man would say, you jerk.
Fair enough. But that all this stuff went down without Tuunbaq, how much more
Oh, the suffering.
terrifying,
These poor guys,
and you know, how much more madness was there in real life, you know? And so that's the kind of thing where you talked about how this show lingers. I mean, it reminds me a little bit of how I'm a big fan. I know I'm the only one out there, but I'm a real big fan of Silence of the Lambs. And that's a movie where you can watch it, you know, every couple of years, and it's just the idea, for me, what keeps it such a scary movie and such a scary story is that really anybody you know could just knock you out and throw you at the bottom of a well and make a dress out of you.
well, don't spoil the end of the podcast, Mork.
Oh, wait a minute. These chains. When's Catfish getting here to save me? Catfish, please hurry. So, no, but it's that idea of this is what people can do to each other. It really is terrifying in a real way. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I'm going to rewatch the show. But yeah, no, it was intense. Okay, so
let's get to this village. Yeah, take it away.
So now, Bubba, I have a question for you.
Yep.
Guess who's coming to dinner?
Who?
Capt Crozier.
Oh, he's coming to this Inuit village. Sure.
Little awkward. I mean, this is one hell of a first date. Let's.
Silna brought home a guy.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see what. Ooh, slim pickings up north.
It is slim pickings. Yeah.
Man.
I enjoyed all this. I mean, like this.
You mean the scene here at the end of the Inuit village?
Well, really, all of these scenes, and
okay.
and this whole relationship and this dynamic. I mean, it really. Crozier is never going to be completely part of it. I mean, at the end, he seems obviously very comfortable,
right?
But there's some stuff going down, and why do you think? And I don't want to skip ahead here, but I'm going to
go.
But why do you think? I mean, do you think that he stays as penance? Do you think he stays because he doesn't want? He goes home and he's going to be humiliated.
Oh man! Well, I would say I don't think this is why Crozier stays at the end. But you could, in a real negative view of Crozier, say,
is he waiting for Alan
for
to
a captain to abandon his ship and lost all his men, but he's the one who survives? Yeah, that's not that would he would be shamed, he'd be ridiculed. Is it possible he could even be brought up on charges?
And how is he gonna? How would he ever explain?
Right.
You know what happened? I mean,
but that's not why I think he stays.
Right.
If I had to guess. He's changed.
Mm-hmm.
He can't go back to England.
Right.
He can't be the man he was anymore. How could you look anybody in the eye after all the horrors that you've seen? In the horrors you've seen other men like Hickey do. How could you open yourself up to this? You find yourself in this village where theoretically he was going to have to stay there at least one winter. Mm-hmm. Then you adapt, and then you just say, okay, why not just do this for the rest of my life? It seems like he ends up with a kid at the end, right? Isn't that a little boy he's brought with him on his ice spear fishing mission?
I wasn't sure if that was his kid or just a kid, but yeah, he's definitely part of the family now.
Oh man, let's ignore Crozier for a bit and just say the fact that Lady Silence had to leave and go be by herself. I hated this. And this is me. I don't understand the culture that they're trying to set up in this show.
Yeah, you jerk.
I guess I am a jerk, but I didn't want her to leave. Yeah. I was like Crozier. I was like, go be with her. You two go be together for the rest of the time. You know, this was not what I wanted.
Yeah, well, but everyone accepts this. So
yeah, I guess I don't. Yeah, when he says everybody accept this, he didn't ask my vote.
Well,
you know, when he goes to sleep tonight, we're gonna have a vote.
He needs to talk to Little about how democracy really works. And
how did you feel about Silna's goodbye?
Well, I wish there had been one some way, somehow.
That she could have explained to Crozier, okay, this is what I got to do.
Yeah, I prefer this because you really feel it a lot more, and you feel how alone he is. Yeah, I'm not too worried about her, I guess, just because she can survive, she knows where to go, she knows what to do, and maybe she'll just go hang out with another family. Her
whole life was ruined just because some idiots accidentally shot her father. Well, this is a sad
I subscribe to the theory that if someone shoots your father, things...
Watch where you're going here.
Things get a little crappy for a little while.
Yeah, that's for a little while. That's your theory?
Well, you know,
everybody go on Twitter and tell Extraordinary what the hell is he talking about? What do you mean?
I think that she's okay.
How about this? Do you believe she understood her role, and if this is her role, she has to fulfill it? She was accepting.
Right. We see her walking off. I mean, it wasn't like she was being chased or thrown in. I mean, she was leaving. And she's been, I mean, if you think about it, like all the stuff she's been through. I mean, she's always had, since obviously her dad got shot, she was completely self-reliant. And so I'm not worried about her. It'd be nice if they
this is the way I'm going to spin it to make myself positive.
All right.
Screw men.
Yeah.
Get away from all. She's been with nothing but men. Screw it. I'm going some way away from men because all these men, even this chief, whatever his name is, I'm like, screw up. Get away from all these jerks.
Well, Crozier.
That's how I'm going to make myself feel better about Silna's sayonara.
If you watch it, and I know a lot of people don't, but if, we watch it because of the accents, we watch it with closed captioning on. Mm-hmm. And, for Crozier, his beard is pretty short.
Well, 2 years later, he doesn't reveal himself to Sir James Ross.
Yeah.
Just because, why would he? What's the point? He said he got his message across. If he revealed himself, they would have found a way to drag him back. They would have come and gotten him. We need answers. And so, tough luck.
Right.
Let everybody just know we are gone. Right. I like it. And don't come back. Like, hey, there is no Northwest Passage. Give it up. I like that idea a lot.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was definitely fitting. I mean,
all right, let's get to it. What is your ranking out of 10 for The Terror season 1 as a whole?
All sorts of nitpicking and quibbles aside, this was great. I mean, I'm going 10. I'm going 10 out of. I'll give it 10. Let's see. I had some others here. I'm giving it 10 double G's.
Double G's.
Gory Goodsirs.
Oh man,
it was. And I know it's basic cable, and I know they're showing more than broadcast TV, but it was cool. It's cool to see a TV network doing great shows that are as dark as anything without having to have, any kind of... Well, I guess there was a little... With Tuunbaq, there was a little sex position.
No, brother.
But, no, it was... I loved it. I really did.
Okay, trying to average out all my rankings so far, and I've had some that have been a little low, but I don't think I've had any lower than 7. So, let's just say it. I'm going to give it 8 double M's out of 10.
Double M's?
Marvelous monsters. Tuunbaq was a marvelous monster.
Terrific Tuunbaq.
He did great job. He added the extra element to the show just like he did to the book that I loved. Mm-hmm. This was a great thing. Like you're saying, we if you get cable here in the United States, this is part of something that just comes with it. Damn. Yeah. Really good job, AMC.
Do you think, and we were sort of chatting about the last time we see Tuunbaq, his face, it was just a lot more clearly defined. I thought he looked great.
In this episode, he generally looked a lot better. Yeah, I thought so. Or maybe I've just gotten used to him. Right.
So do you think that, well, he actually looked different to me when we first see him, and his face was a little, we were joking about the CGI. But do you think his face was more fully formed, like closer to humans because he was taking up all these human souls?
Possibly. Yeah, he didn't look... His face was more human than a bear's, that's for sure. I don't know. I want the listeners, go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/P podcast. Let us know what you think. Let's get to our feedback, and we've got so much. Let's get to the very first one. It's a fun one from our buddy Matt Foster, who's at Fat Monster on Twitter. He said, "These shoes were made for eating. That's just what they'll do. One of these days, your tooth is gonna fall right out of you. Do." He goes,
it's tough.
He said
like that boot.
He said this show reminded him of a line from Lord of the Rings that the Uruk-hai, orcs, and Mr. Hickey all cheer. Looks like meat's back on the menu, boys.
Hello. Yeah, I was waiting for the Fens to show up.
From Game of Thrones. Matt Foster also said, should you at least reminisce about a guy if you're eating him? Come on. Now, on a serious note, Matt said, Crozier's acting is brilliant this series, along with Goodsir and Hickey. Great acting. Mm-hmm. I've actually been impressed with the whole cast, except for one cast member he wasn't impressed with.
Who's that?
Tuunbaq. Oh, tough critic there, Matt.
I don't try to get any autographs from Tuunbaq at the ToonCon. All right, so here we go. This is from Colin.
All right.
Okay. Colin gives us his honest opinion. 6 out of 10 because no action every episode.
Please, that was for episode 9, okay.
Please don't ever become a writer. Your show would last 5 episodes. All the characters would be dead.
Yeah, so because Catfish was so tough on last week's episode, and Catfish was like, action, action, action.
Oh.
Colin gave us 6 out of 10 in the ranking. Oh, man.
Oh, okay. I gotcha. All right, that's cool.
Linda Tarver said she gave last week's episode 8.75 out of 10 because Crozier isn't losing enough weight. She said last week she really did enjoy the scene where they kind of swap places between Crozier and Jobson. Mm-hmm. And she said, I thought the C was a misspelling of C by one of the sailors. And I think it was.
I think it was just his notebook.
Right, where he was just writing it out, C, right. The C, the open C. And so, yeah, I think you're right. A lot of this feedback is about last week's episode 9.
All right, totally cool. Shakespeare of Thrones at Shakes of Thrones. Just caught up on The Terror and the Double P.
All right.
8 out of 10 here. The monologuing wasn't so much a problem for me as the content of it. I don't mind slow episodes since they often afford more time to connect with the characters, but the dialogue in this episode just seemed to lack something. I might have rated it 7 out of 10, but Blanky's maniacal laugh at the end and those forks made up an extra point. Great ending for a gut-wrenching episode.
Gut-eating episode. So once again, that's about episode 9. Lawrence Jameson wrote, this podcast is really great and funny until you guys brought in your politics and outed yourselves as liberal idiots.
Oh, boy.
I believe that was about Catfish talking about Dan Simmons' novel that has a very conservative bent that Catfish didn't like. Mm-hmm. And so I wrote back to Lawrence, and I'll just let everybody know, hey, you can tell us anything, even call us liberal idiots if you'd like. Nobody should take any advice from me about how to do a podcast, how to run a podcast. What I would say that I think is good advice, the one advice I'd say is be yourself. Mm-hmm. And so just because we both happen to lean left in politics, you know, if it comes up, you got to be yourself. You can't, I think podcasts where people are afraid to kind of play it safe or try to play it safe and are afraid to kind of go one way or another, it's like, no, we're listening because we want to hear your thoughts and your opinions. Our opinions aren't any more important than yours. But if something like that comes up, and we certainly don't mean to offend anybody who doesn't agree with our politics, hey.
Right.
And leaving the liberal part out of it, you can always call us idiots. We're down with that. Thank you so much.
We're idiots of all stripes.
All right, here's one from Zest. What does Zest say, Mork?
Atmospherically, I think the show does enough to convince me of the cold, the background actors rubbing their hands, the frostbitten and corpse-like look of the mess, and the snow burn they all seem to be gradually getting.
Oh, yeah.
Hickey tossing off all his clothes to ensure there wasn't blood, like the dude is so unnervingly thorough for now. It's like the equivalent of, you failed me for the last time, Starscream. Frustration. Interesting.
Good point. And yeah, a lot of people are going to talk in this feedback about something you brought up, Mork, about, well, okay, it doesn't look like they're that cold. I'm not sure this next one does. This next one is from Susie Forrester. Susie Forrester, she goes, I looked and looked on iTunes, found you, then realized that the voices were familiar. Who else would be called Catfish? I couldn't place it. Then it hit me. The Strain. I listened to your podcast about The Strain.
Oh, we're so sorry. We're so sorry.
Just found you on Stitcher. Love the podcast. Crazy about the terror. She goes, on the last episode, episode 9, she cried. I would give it a 9.5. I love the personal stories, emotion, and yes, deaths, though I cried.
Oh.
JFJ and Hobson's last moments were heartbreaking last week, she says. It was slow, yes, but a good show can't always be 100 miles per hour all the time. Because if so, speed, Tuunbaq would get boring. That's a great point.
Good call.
She says she started reading the book after the first episode and finished around the 8th episode. Wonderful read. Thank you so much, Susie. Oh, so good. Here's one from Dawn.
Oh, all right. Here we go. Dawn Ivy here. Oh, God. This whole episode, I felt hopeless, sick, sad, anxious. Just the major, expansive gray sky, the ground, their bodies just falling apart. Here's my question, though. Do we know for sure that there were no survivors? Does anyone know? Because I can't find a lot of info on this.
If they survived in any way, that information didn't get back to England and London, or what you would call the people who would know. So maybe they survived longer than what we think they might have. But once again, this is a real life mystery. Oh my
well,
goodness.
But it is saying that
they discovered a bunch of bodies
in 1850.
Yeah, they did discover a bunch of bodies. Let's be honest. So did they discover other bodies? Did they discover every body? Probably not. So,
Right.
All right, boy, if you love the silly side of Double P Podcast, here's a great guy. Always gives great feedback. Carson Young. He did the classic.
Oh, yeah.
He did the classic Donner Party of 8, and 8 is spelled ATE.
Oh.
He said you could call this show The Englishman Who Went Up a Hill and Came Down a Cannibal. Oh, man. So great.
That's awesome. First name, last name. As usual, great show, guys. Oh, thanks.
Thank you.
Have you ever loved someone so much you just wanted to eat them? Maybe that's how Hickey felt about Gibson.
Oh.
And for Valentine's Day.
Oh, great / terrible comments. We love them. Mike R. said, can someone please explain why they have resorted to cannibalism while they're carrying boatloads of food? They're not exactly down to the last resort yet. And so this is something that has to go to the real-life history tied to the Dan Simmons novel, in that history has a lot of signs that they did have possibly turned cannibal. But then on the flip side, like I said, they found chocolate, they found some tins, they knew these tins were bad. And so maybe that's what it was. It's like, well, you can't survive on just chocolate. Maybe they gave up on eating whatever tins they had left because they knew it was killing them.
Well, they knew,
we don't know. We don't know.
They knew it was killing them, and there was an alternative. If people are dropping dead, and there's some nice filet of sole. Thank you. Maybe it was like, well, I don't want to be eating either of these things. I'm just going to eat the one that I know probably isn't going to kill me.
Yeah.
No. All right. Bo Shaver.
Hey, Bo.
Hickey has become the anti-Crozier. Every choice he makes is selfish and ultimately cruel. He's also too eager to engage in flesh-eating, demanding others take his path. But we've seen how comfortable he is shedding blood with the violation of the man's brain in the earlier episode, and stabbing his mate out on the tundra. Hickey seems to be embracing the way of the Tuunbaq, while Crozier is trying to maintain his humanity. Polar opposites, pun intended. Thanks,
Love it. Could there be a shaman who could control Hickey? We needed a shaman to control Tuunbaq. Is there one for Hickey? We had one feedback from Jennifer J. Allen. She wrote, R.E., the big deal about abandoning ship. In the first episode, Sir John Franklin doesn't want to leave the Erebus in the ice because at any time any ship was lost, left, or captured, the survivors had to answer to the Admiralty in a court-martial setting.
Okay.
I think Franklin makes his decision based purely on his career back then. And then she says it becomes clear Francis gives no F's about his career because he's willing to commit some mild treason, like light treason, and walk out to save them. JFJ would have taken over command, which would have had a tough decision, since at which point Francis hates JFJ. Mm-hmm. She said she loved the podcast. Thank you so much. Oh. Now our good friend Peter down in Australia.
Peter, who
always gets the show legally.
Always.
We have to say.
Legal Peter, we call him. Hi, guys. Love your podcast as always, but I disagree with you about episode 9.
Oh, love it.
I found it very tense and liked how it has set up the final episode. I gave it a 9. I was surprised to see Mr. Goodsir with the breakaway group, as we never actually saw him get taken in episode 8. As for... Oh, man, Peter, I love you. As for future podcasts, my suggestion is the book Polar Star by Martin Cruz Smith. It's book 2 following Arkady Renko's story of Gorky Park. It is such a great book that you could do a one-episode podcast or series like you did with Ghost Head Watchmen. In my perfect world, you would do all the Renko books. That's your best idea.
Mork, say your thoughts about that great novel, Polar Star.
Polar Star. So, Arkady Renko is my favorite literary character. Polar Star, I think, is the best book in that series.
I do too. Great book.
It's perfectly structured. You are in the water, you are on the land, and then you are stuck out on the ice. It is just stunning.
Isn't it funny that Peter wrote this great note on our Facebook page, and yet he didn't know that we've both read that book and love it just as much as he did?
Yeah,
that's great job, Peter.
Thank you, Peter. That's a great job.
Here's feedback from JD Terry 81. They write, I think the answer to why Crozier left some men behind on the Terror, the ship, and wasn't willing to leave any men behind on land has to do where the ships were discovered. Oh, yeah, this is something I was mentioning a bit ago. Both the Terror and Erebus were found south of where they'd been believed to have been abandoned, suggesting that at some point both ships attempted to sail out of the Arctic Circle. Leaving those guys behind is just an easy way to line up the show history. Both ships were only discovered within the last 5 years. Think about this. This is over 150 years ago, and they just now discovered the ships.
Oh, wow. I had no idea.
Love it. Thank you so much.
All right, here we go. Maestro 4202. All right, I'm kind of freaking out. Thought this was going to be a one-season show. Now I'm feeling that they paced it out for another season when you consider how much of the book hasn't happened yet.
Oh, so he wrote this before seeing this final episode. Or she wrote this, whoever Maestro is.
Generally speaking, I'd say they got through most of the story, but there's still some left. If so, it's a gamble, because if it's canceled, they risk having the story unfinished, which would be a huge shame. I guess I'll find out on Monday. By the way, other Dan Simmons book I'd like to see as a show is Summer of Night. It has a very Stranger Things vibe to it. All right.
Well, man,
thanks,
I
Maestro.
like that. Thank that. All right, a great double L.
Double L.
Loyal listener is Morgan. She has been giving us great feedback all season
She's the only one who does any work around here.
Somebody has to. She wrote, in most cinematic throwaways, we would see an image of each character and how they met their end. Seeing this is based on a book about characters we don't know how they died, the minor character storylines had to be wrapped up. I'm of two minds when it comes to Goodsir. He only has Hoaxie's word that he's going to cut off parts of the other men. You know, last week when he's like, hey, do this or I'm going to injure Hodgson. And that propels Goodsir to do the actual butchering. I think that was a sleight of hand by Hoaxie to spur Goodsir into action. Secondly, we are in the Victorian era where historically there is a break between the Church of England and the Roman Catholic Church, the infamous Papist that Hodgson was talking about, which does take communion, meaning the body and the blood, in which the mutineers are quite likely partaking of flesh and blood. He is a weak man, Hodgson she's talking about now, but as he says, he's hungry and he wants to live. One of my favorite moments in last week's episode is the role reversal between Crozier and Jobson. Blanky's last hurrahs are also the best, with black humor with Crozier, realizing he is filled in the chart with Northwest Passage. The ropes and forks were misconstrued. Blanky is wrapped up in ropes with forks pointing outward for when Tuunbaq finally finishes him off. Bellyache, anyone? What if that killed Tuunbaq? A week later, eating all those forks, he's like, ah.
Yeah, Blanky pops out. Yeah, no, I thought that's why he strung the forks around him.
Morgan continues, to answer Catfish, the whole narrative has been to represent a culture that English does not understand, with its myths and supernatural elements. Without Lady Silence, for the show's sake, would we really, as viewers, understand the purpose of Tuunbaq being something other than a rampaging polar bear that cannot be killed? Outside of Jobson's poignant reversal, did you guys notice he tried to straighten up his appearance for the captain when the captain came in to cheer him up?
Yeah.
Blanky was the real winner, the laughter despite sadness between two friends, and his end was definitely a toast to Blanky. And much love for Catfish, even though he deserves a hard time sometimes. Let's remove that sometimes. Catfish.
All the time.
Working this tonight, so he couldn't be here with us, but he's with us in spirit.
In spirit. All right. This is from Topheress. As far as we know, historically there were no survivors, although there were supposed sightings of at least one survivor wandering the ice for nearly 3 years after the ships were abandoned. The only reports seriously considered were from Inuit, who reported meeting someone who told them to let anyone asking know that all the others had perished. In the novel, that man is Crozier, although if he is the same person reported by the Inuit as carrying a sword, then it's likely he was a soldier by the name of Tozier. Spelling.
All right.
Okay, good call, as that person would have been issued a sword. Of course, we know next to nothing about most of the crew and their personalities, but in the novel and series, the writers made Tozier one of the mutineers and a victim of the Tuunbaq. It is known that the men left a scattered trail of food cans, garbage, graves, and dead as they headed south, and it's assumed that they either succumbed to starvation or cold. If you want to know more about the actual Franklin expedition, there's some excellent non-fiction books available. There's an informative 4-part video on YouTube that gives some background on the actual expedition and how it relates to the fictional series. It's called The Terror and the Basics of the Franklin Expedition. The first video is on our Facebook page. Here's a little fiction meets fact tidbit. series changed the fate of Hickey from the novel. I won't spoil the series finale, but in the novel, he ends up...
Don't spoil the novel in case anybody wants to read it. Sorry.
All right. The author based whatever is the spoiler, on an actual discovery. Not long ago, a bullet was found, and sitting inside was one man who had frozen to death with his gun. Like I said, it's different in the series, though. So in the series universe, the man is someone else.
All right. Okay, great feedback from everybody. Once again, I want to apologize in case I missed some. We just had stuff coming in on any and everything. Let me end this podcast by reminding you guys, you double L's who've been so kind to find us, to listen to us, that please subscribe however you listen to this podcast. Subscribe so you can get the next ones. Go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/double P podcast. Say it with me. The word double, the single letter P, the word podcast with
plural.
an S, plural. Facebook.com/double P podcast. Follow and like that page, because if we do something other on a different feed, a lot of times for shows we create different podcast feeds. We want you guys to join with us. And finally, share it with friends. That's the number one way people discover podcasts. Let them know. Let the children know. Don't be like Capt Crozier. Tell the story to everybody to follow us on this Northwest Passage. It's been wonderful having you here for all these weeks, Mork. How can people find
Bubba.
you online?
Oh, they can find me at Extraordinary on Twitter. That's extraordinary with a W before the final R.
My name's Bubba. You can find me on Twitter at Fit and Trim. That's FITTENTRIM at Fit and Trim on Twitter. And for everybody, go off into that frozen wonder and know that when you go off, you'll be ice cold.
All right, stop. Collaborate and Tuunbaq. Tuunbaq's back with the...
Tuunbaq's back. All right. We ought to do... Hold on. Let's do this for Catfish.
All right.
3, 2, 1, go. Tuunbaq. Tuunbaq. Tuunbaq.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Who's got my tongue?
Tuunbaq. Hey.